Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Walker, the manager of athlete development here at USA Volleyball. And today I have the privilege of being joined by April Ross. April, of course, is a three-time Olympian with us. And fun fact, one of only four people who have medaled more than once in the beach game. So we're joined today by April to discuss what factors we might want to consider in beach partner selection and how to cultivate those relationships. Thanks for joining us, April.
Of course. Yeah. Happy to be here.
So obviously you've had not only a very successful beach career, which you recently retired from, but you were very successful with three different partners. So as you think about young April entering into the beach space, what were some factors that you thought about or that you were guided with that helped you make that initial partner selection?
Well, when I first started, the partner selection part was really tough. And I started playing with a friend and we did okay, but like not nearly we weren't as successful as I knew I wanted to be. Um, and then I was asked by a few people, veteran players, to play. And one thing that was really hard for me to navigate was the friendship versus business side of the partner dynamic. And I didn't want to hurt my friends' feelings who I was playing with. And so it was really hard to make that decision and recognize that maybe I needed to play with someone better, more experienced to learn and grow and pursue the success I was after. I felt like I had tapped out with my friend and we were both the same age, experience level. And so that first breakup decision to move on was really, really tough emotionally. And what I know now is that you have to kind of view it as more of a business transaction, which sounds kind of cold, but you're out here trying to make a profession, trying to achieve your lifelong goals, and you need to make decisions based on that being your priority. And even after I moved on from that first partnership with my friend, I had a situation where the person I was then going to play with had an injury as we were approaching season, and she was going to have to miss some tournaments. And just coming from an indoor background too, like I was very loyal to my club teams. I was always on with the same club, through thick and thin. And so it was really hard for me to wrap my brain around just moving from one person to another based on what I deemed at the time as like selfish reasons. So because she wasn't going to be able to play in the first couple of tournaments, I reached out to someone else, and it was supposed to be a temporary thing. And that other person was Jennifer Kessy. And her partner wasn't going to be able to play in the first couple of tournaments. So I said, hey, what if we pair up and just until our partners are ready to go play these tournaments? We ended up doing so well. We made the first final of the AVP that we played in, which I had not even come close to. And it was a big deal, obviously. And so I had to then be like, well, this seems like has potential, this partnership with Jen. And like, she was a great person. I enjoyed being around her. We had a great time. And I made that really, really tough decision to tell my partner, who unfortunately was injured, that like, hey, I'm going to stick with Jen and see where this goes. And that was a really, really hard conversation to have. That was a really hard decision to make. I felt really bad. But because I made those tough decisions and kind of followed the writing on the wall, like to make a final in any professional tournament is a really big deal. And that's what catapulted my career to go on and have a lot of success, because Jen and I had great chemistry. She was a great player. We won a lot of tournaments, international, domestic, and then made the Olympic Games and got a silver medal. So it's tough emotionally to navigate partner switches and trying to find the right partner. What I've learned, though, I think what I learned from that early on experience was and Jen actually told me this before I played with her, but you look at who your best option is. Who do you think is the best beach volleyball player that I can play with, who I think, will generally complement my game? If I'm a defender, obviously I have to look at blockers. If I'm left sider, got to look at right siders, that kind of thing. But then you look at who's winning, who is the best beach volleyball player that I can try and play with. And I think that needs to be number one, unless there's some ridiculous external factor that you have to take into consideration. But yeah, so I think that has to be number one, and then other things fall into place after that.
Absolutely. So is that then the decision to make the jump to Carrie?
Yeah, well, I knew Jen was, after the London Olympics, she was looking to start a family. I didn't know what like the timeline was going to be. You can't really tell it with things like that, but I knew she wasn't going to go super hard for like the Rio Olympics, and that was still in my game plan. I definitely wanted to continue on. And so I knew I was going to have to make the switch at some point. And Carrie expressed interest in playing together. And, as far as potential partners go, obviously that was a no-brainer. So, I just didn't want to miss the boat because I knew that a lot of other people were probably hitting up Carrie to play. And, so I wanted to, make sure she knew I was interested as soon as possible. And that was in 2013 we started playing together. So yeah, right after London. And it was still hard, hard to tell Jen, and it was a tough conversation, but more understandable because her goals at that point were different than my goals. So yeah, on paper and in actuality, Carrie was the best partner option. So when after that started, in my mind, I started at the top and she said yes, so that was great.
Absolutely. And then you made a third partner transition, probably for similar reasons, right? Maybe Carrie's, because she retired about in between, or
No, she kept playing. But our just like visions for, there was some turmoil between our domestic tours and what was going on, and her vision was different than mine, and we just couldn't kind of reconcile the direction we wanted to go. And so she chose to go a different direction, so I needed to find a new partner. And I played with Lauren Fendrick for one season, and we actually did pretty well. We got silver at World Championships. And that was really fun. And but I knew I wanted to go to Tokyo. I wanted, the only reason I was going to continue on was because I wanted to pursue, that gold medal that I hadn't gotten yet. I had a silver and a bronze at that point. And so I was just looking for someone with a lot of potential, that I could grow with. And there were a couple established blockers on the beach, and then Alex Kleinman had just come out onto the beach, and she was very raw as far as beach volleyball goes. And, that transition time is hard. And just because you're a great indoor player doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great beach volleyball player. There are different things you have to learn, and I think it depends on, how motivated you are to stick through it, through the tough times. But you could tell, that she had potential. I had a lot of, so I was deciding between a few people who I wanted to play with, who I thought would be my best option for Tokyo. And it was more of a risk, and I was looking more long term. Like, yes, I could have gotten with someone with points that would have made it easier to get into tournaments and start, that Olympic qualification period a little bit stronger and in a safer position. But maybe with an athlete who was close to their peak at that point. And so when I was weighing those options, I asked Alex to do a training session with her. I just wanted to get on the sand, and I had people in my ear being like, play with this person. This is the person you should play with. And a lot of people were in favor of Alex. She, grew up in the South Bay, played beach growing up, and a lot of people were fans of hers. But then a lot of people saying like, oh, but X, Y, and Z, she's not going to be able to do this or this on the sand. And so I wanted to get on the court and actually observe for myself what I thought. And she ended up kind of squashing a lot of those fears or doubts. And even if she wasn't super sharp and doing all the right things, like I could tell that she was on the right path and that she was capable of doing those things. So physically, she became on par with the other partners I was looking at. And then I sat down. The biggest factor then at that point was like, how do our goals mesh? How does our mentality coincide? Are you going to work as hard as I am? Like, I just had coffee with a couple different girls and talked to them. And when I spoke with Alex, like you could just feel how intense and driven she was. And it was very clear what motivated her. And knowing how hard it is to show up every day and work as hard as you need to be successful at the Olympic level. Like you have to have that fire and you have to have that motivation, and commitment. And coming from her storied indoor career, she has a history of winning and just being really good and gritty. And so I took that into consideration, and she had 0 points, right? So I didn't even know if we were going to be able to get into tournaments at that point if I played with her. So that was the big question mark. And thankfully, we narrowly got into that very first tournament. We were the last American team that was allowed in. But I decided, it sounds ridiculous now to say like I risked it, but like at the time I didn't know what the right direction to go in was. So I just had to do I just had to kind of like feel out my gut and listen to my intuition and take some time to think about, what is the universe telling me kind of at that point. And it just felt right to go with Alex. And I've always been a firm believer in not taking the easy route. Like I think if you take on challenge face on, like you're going to grow, it's going to provide the most growth. You're going to improve and get better. And because of how hard you have to work, it's going to pay off bigger in the long run. I mean, sometimes the easy path is the right one to take, but in this instance, it was like, I didn't want the challenge to scare me away from what I felt like was the right decision. So I decided to go the more challenging route at the beginning. And then thankfully it paid off, but there was no guarantee that it was going to, so, it also made me work really, really hard. And it was like, okay, we, have to figure these things out, and it's going to take everything that we have. And maybe we were more motivated because of the position we started in rather than kind of being in a more elevated position. So yeah, we ended up winning that first tournament, getting a gold medal, but then we got last place in the tournament following. So it started to even out as we went. But yeah, it was a little rocky at first. Yeah, that was a very long-winded answer of how I chose my partners or why I chose my partners. But I say often that I've just gotten really lucky with my partners. Like I kind of fell into it out of necessity with Jen. Misty retired, which is why Carrie was available to partner with. Because if Misty had continued playing, Carrie and Misty would have played together. So like I lucked out that like Jen wanted to start a family and Misty retired. So I could, I played with Carrie, and then, made that tougher decision to go with Alex, and it paid off. And that, there's a certain level of luck with that, like I didn't know what the right decision was. So I'm just grateful that it worked out the way that it did. But I also have to say, like, it depends on how you are as a partner. Like you can help those partnerships succeed, or you can be a contributor to its failure. You know what I mean? So it's not just about like picking the right person, it's about being the right person in those partnerships.
Yeah. A couple of things really stuck out to me as you were outlining your trajectory. One was truly listening to your intuition, and two was taking some risks, right? That there were some times where you just said, I'm going to lean into the risk, and that being a big piece of what made it work with Alex in the end, which was the gold medal payoff, right?
Yeah. And there's a thing that happens in beach volleyball, and it's people look at points and they make decisions based on who has the most points and how can I make it easiest for myself to get into this tournament or this tournament. And I have rarely seen that pay off. In the short term, sure, you get to go to maybe a higher level tournament, but what is really more effective for being successful is picking that person that you think you can form a strong team with, where you guys are going to have potential, and maybe you have to start in the futures level. You have to invest some money, which is tough to say because it's not easy to come by, but it's the more challenging route. But if you have a team you believe in more than a team that has some obscure amount of points, and then you stick with that person, you grow as a team, you have a long-term vision and goals, and you grow together, and you're going to be a more formidable team as you go, and you're going to naturally rise through the ranks, in my opinion.
Yeah. I really love how you finished the talk of your trajectory too, with emphasizing that you can be somebody who makes your partnership or breaks your partnership, but it really comes back to the relationship itself. It's not just a partner purely to be another body on the court. It's the relationship you all cultivate both strategically and then on a personal level.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot made about the personal side of it. And the more I reflect on everything, like, to me, that's a bonus. If you get along with your partner off the court, or like more than get along, like have this great relationship off the court, that's a bonus. You don't need to have that. You can show up and be professional on the court, realize that you're both working for this goal, and be respectful of each other and interact in a way that allows you both to play at your best. And then, I mean, that's going to breed camaraderie off the court also. So I do think it starts on the court, and you don't have to be best friends or friends to have good chemistry on the court. I think you need to mainly be professional and respectful to your partner. Yeah, there's a lot. I see a lot of even people that are friends off the court, they get on the court and they don't treat each other respectfully, or they're not accountable for themselves. They're blaming their partner. And, I've heard a lot of accounts of, when teams lose a match, one person is saying it's the other person's fault, and you can just see it. A lot of times you can see it in the body language when they're playing, and you can't make your partner feel like crap. Like, you have to realize that they want to win just as much as you do. If they make a mistake here or there, that's human. Doesn't mean they're not trying or they're a bad volleyball player. It's like, no, they make mistakes, you make mistakes. You have to be able to look at yourself. The only thing you can truly control is yourself. So why not focus on that and what you can do to help your partner be better, what you can do to help your team win. And that winning solves a lot of things. So, if you can you have to look, what is going to help us win? What is going to help my partner play her best or his best? Like, it's not going to be blaming my partner, making them feel worse about making mistakes. It's taking some of that load off of them, being accountable for yourself and doing the best that you can. So I think that is lost sometimes on people.
Absolutely. You mentioned, and I think this goes into that being respectful and professional to your partner. You mentioned that negotiation of and sharing kind of goals, trajectory, getting on the same page when it comes to what do you want out of this partnership or where you want to go with this was pretty critical. So can you maybe guide us through like a few questions that maybe like you and Alex discussed as you were making that decision that made you realize, okay, we're aligned enough here to move forward with this partner?
I think it was a while ago, but I think I'm pretty sure I asked, like, how do you approach training? Like, what is your thought process when you show up? How do you approach matches? Like, what's your mentality when you're competing? What do you do off the court to maximize your potential? When things get hard, like how do you cope? Stuff like that. And I don't even think I had to ask her, but she went right in and started talking about like, maybe I asked her about her, what she viewed her commitment level as, and she went right in and was so passionate about, I'm switching to beach because I missed out on the Olympics. It's a lifelong dream of mine to go to the Olympics. And you could just tell that that was all that mattered to her, and she was willing to do whatever it took to make that dream happen. And so I think you can generally get a sense and a feeling of how intense and serious someone is about their goals. And just by talking to them, you can tell if, you align with them in that way.
Perfect. Well, as we wrap up, any other big pieces of advice you would give beach players when it comes to partner selection, when it comes to partner relationships, any of that for success?
You have to invest a little bit into your partnership. You have to be vulnerable, number one. So like you invest emotionally in a way, like put your all into it. Communicate with your partner some of your fears. And, if you're unsure of how your partner is feeling or what they're thinking and it's making you uneasy, like have those conversations, ask those questions, like get everything out in the open. So communicate as much as you can, which is tough. It's hard. You have to be vulnerable. I think it's really important to have a coach, have somebody who can instruct you, because if you're trying to coach each other or just yourselves, like that's really hard. Alex and I tried to do that this past summer just because we weren't doing international. It wasn't as serious. And for us, it was really tough. Like, so to have that third party helping you, really important, trying to be coachable, listen to what your coach is telling you, buy into the system. And then just invest the hard work, the time, and then as much money as you can afford, to set yourself up and give yourself a chance to be successful. It doesn't just happen. Like you don't just get on the court with another good volleyball player and things are great and you're successful. It's with Carrie, on paper, yes, we're supposed to be a very good team, but we had, two coaches. We saw sports psychologists. We did all of our external lifting and training and physical therapy. we had to put a lot of work and effort into forming our team and being a good team. And I mean, the same is true with all my partners. But you can't just assume that things are going to be easy.
Yeah. No, I love it. Thank you so much for sitting down today with us, April. Appreciate it. And I know all of our young beach athletes or those going through with high ambitions will learn a lot from your story.
I hope so. Hope I can help.
Thanks, April.
Yeah.